Podcast One presents The Chad Prather Show, your one-stop shop for comedy, craziness, and common sense. Each week, YouTube star and voice of the everyman, Chad Prather, brings his armchair philosophy and observational humor to the podcast world. Nothing is off limits. And now for your host, Chad Prather.
Well, my daddy left home when I was 3, and he didn't leave much to ma and me, this old guitar and an empty bottle of booze. Now, I don't blame him because he run and hid, but the meanest thing he ever did was before he left, he went and named me Sue. If you're a country music fan, you recognize those classic opening lyrics to the Johnny Cash song, Boy Named Sue, and it's a funny one. I'll tell you what, country music is a funny business. I'm a big fan of it, always have been from my childhood, and today I've got a guy who is a good friend of mine, and we're going to talk a little bit about music. We're going to talk about country music. We're going to talk about a genre of music that's out there that's a pretty big deal that maybe a lot of folks across the country haven't heard, and that is Texas country music. You see, we have this country right in the middle of the country. It's called Texas. A little over 23 million people live there, and I'm one of them, and I want to introduce you today to my buddy Steve Helms, who is a singer-songwriter out of Texas and just a hugely influential guy, and I'm proud to call him friend, and he was gracious enough to come in and sit down with me. We had a great talk about some of the stories that we've shared on the road together, some of the things we've been through, some pretty funny things, so stay tuned to that. But we're going to talk a little bit about music and influences and things like that, and if you're a music fan at all, you'll appreciate this conversation we're about to have, so I want you to hang in there with us, and you can find him online, and we're going to talk about that a little bit, especially his music. You're going to want to go out and get it, download it. My buddy Steve Helms, he's pretty awesome. He'll tell you. He doesn't mind letting you know how awesome he is. I want you to find me, speaking of awesome things, I want you to find me on the internet. Go to watchchad.com, check out my latest tour schedule, and I also want you to visit my blog, politicalcowboy.com, and see what we're talking about, rambling, ranting, and all these things. And, of course, find me on social media, Twitter, @WatchChad, Instagram, @WatchChad, and you can search Chad Prather on Facebook, and you'll find me rambling and ranting, sitting there in a cowboy hat in the front seat of my truck, usually with my faithful dog Willie sitting in the back, and we're usually stirring the pot, and we enjoy doing that a little bit. At least it gets the conversation started. I hope that you guys are enjoying the Chad Prather Show podcast, produced and delivered by Podcast One. They've been so good to us, and I want you to go and leave a rating where you have the opportunity. Give us those 5 stars. We enjoy those all the time. You can always send me emails at chad@watchchad.com and let me know what you think of the show, and also some potential guests that you'd like to see on here, because we've got some really exciting folks coming up, some folks you've heard of, some folks that are well-known household names, but then we've also got some folks that we're going to introduce you to. Got a lot of interesting characters across America, influencers and people that are really making a difference in the world, folks that you need to know, people you need to follow, people you need to be influenced by and learn from. And I hope that you do that through the Chad Prather Show podcast. Be sure to tell your friends to tune in and subscribe wherever podcasts are available, and I certainly appreciate that. Yeah, old Johnny Cash, I'll tell you what an influence he was. I love that song, Boy Named Sue. It's pretty amazing, and you probably have your favorite country songs out there that if you told your friends that don't listen to country music, they'd say, what in the world are you listening to? That's some pretty funny stuff, and they would actually be quite right. You got to see the humor in it, folks. That's part of the point. It's what makes it beautiful. So I hope you guys are living and enjoying life today. Thank you for tuning in. When we come back, we're going to sit down and have a little conversation with my good buddy, the crazy, the one, the only, Mr. Steve Helms. Stay tuned.
We will be back in a moment with more of The Chad Prather Show.
Hi, this is Ben Domenech, the host of the Federalist Radio Hour. We're a daily show coming to you 5 days a week from Washington, D.C., where we interview our nation's top journalists, politicians, authors, chefs, economists, entertainers, and more. If you're looking for a contrarian discussion on news, politics, or culture, give us a listen and subscribe at podcastone.com, the new Podcast One app, or at Apple Podcasts.
Hey folks, Podcast One has a great new app for you to listen to The Chad Prather Show and all of the great Podcast One shows available right now in the App Store or on Google Play. Find articles, social media, create playlists with your favorite episodes, and connect with other fans of the podcast. You can even create your own polls and debate the topics we talk about on the show. We have our own little community out there. You need to join it. Check out exclusive content such as behind-the-scenes photos and so much more. And if you have 360 video or watch shows in virtual reality, there are over 1,000 videos on the app right now. It's like you're in the studio. There is no other podcast app like this. Download the all-new Podcast One app in the App Store or on Google Play.
Welcome back to The Chad Prather Show.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Chad Prather Show. As promised, I'm sitting here in my hometown of Fort Worth, Texas, with a man, a myth, a legend, a relic, really, and he's been around forever, and he's my good friend, so I'm going to pick on him for a little while, the legendary musician, singer, songwriter, Mr. Steve Helms. What's up, buddy?
Thanks, man. I'm going to put that on my resume. Relic.
Yeah.
Relic.
Well, you know, I had Neil McCoy on the show, and if you go to his website, neilmccoy.com, it says the legendary Neil McCoy. I feel funny putting that
You
on
should
my
put comma and modest.
the very humble and legendary Neil McCoy. But Neil is a legend. I don't know what you have to do in life to become a legend other than die. So it's pretty bold when you're still alive and you call yourself a legend.
That's pretty bold. Yeah.
Steve has been, and I'm going to give you my background, then we're going to talk to my background with Steve, and then I want to tell you a little bit about it. He's going to tell you a little bit about him. I got to know Steve a while back, a number of years ago. Steve is a Texas musician, but I mean, you're a worldwide musician, obviously. You're an accomplished recording artist. You've got a number of albums to your name, which we'll talk about. You got a new one coming out. Incredible guitar player. And I got to know Steve. Steve called me up one day. I was a fan of Steve's, and he called me up one day, and he said, let's go play golf. You and I went and played golf. That's the first day you and I, and this was years ago, we went out and played golf. It was the fastest round of golf I ever played in my life.
You're welcome.
Typically, a round of golf is about 4 hours long. It took Steve 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yep. You had a great time and had drinks, and you got 18 holes in.
And other things to do throughout the day. There was more to do.
Got all the shopping in and everything else you needed to do.
Well, that was the fastest round of golf that I've ever played. You'd be on the green. I'd be on the green, and Steve would be driving away in the cart with my clubs. Music, Texas music. Define that, because we have a large audience out there. I know we have a huge Texas audience, but I mention a lot of times we take it for granted, Texas music, red dirt music, Texas country music. As a genre, what is it?
Me personally, what I feel like it is, and I've been playing music for money for 35 years. I've been doing this a long time. I was playing in the club scene in Texas and throughout all the states before there was a Texas music scene.
Right.
Back in those days, it was Gary P. Nunn. It was, Robert Earl Keen was just getting kind of started. Getting started. He was getting well known at that point.
Yeah.
And and there's other ones too, and Sonny was one of them. Sonny Burgess. They were all playing. We all played clubs back then, man. And you played Wednesday through Saturday somewhere, and that's kind of when the Texas music scene got started. Was like Gary P. and all these Texas dudes were everybody was catching on to what they had, what they were selling, And they were all independent dudes. They weren't big record label Nashville guys. They were just kind of homegrown and regional, but people were digging it. And that's kind of how that started,
Yeah.
And then the college scene latched on to Robert Earl a little bit with A&M and all that. And then like Pat Green started coming out, and that, at Texas Tech. And so it was like the college scene started grasping all this. And that it was almost like a cult kind of thing of, these are our singers, and, doesn't matter what they do or where they go.
Right.
We're following them,
Right.
And that's kind of how all that started, man. And then in the Stillwater area.
Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Yeah, then you started getting Cross Canadian Ragweed and Mike McClure and,
Jason Boland.
Yeah.
Stoney
Stillwater.
LaRue. And I know a lot of folks who listen to these things, they're from all over the country, and they're like, who are these names? I'm telling you, they're legends. They really are. They're songwriting. They're influencers. Yeah. They're musical influencers. And a lot of the music that you hear nowadays, stuff that comes out of Nashville, stuff that historically has come out in the country music scene, in the southern rock scene, in the Americana scene. Everybody knows who Chris Stapleton is now.
Right.
Chris Stapleton, in a large way, got a huge influence, and that's why his music's played so strongly in Texas and Oklahoma, in that area, because it's so similar to what you hear coming out of the Texas music scene. There's a lot of there's a lot of grit to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of feel. There's some deep angst in the music, and some blues and rock, as well as the country thing.
And he was an independent artist for a long time.
Yeah, sure.
He didn't have a major record deal up until just a few years ago.
A couple years ago.
But he's been singing and writing and playing music for 20 years, dude.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, he was independent as well. And that's why people here relate to him. Is because, you're right, because the music is similar, but his story is similar.
Yeah.
We didn't have a big machine behind us or him, And
I love it
they
when
were just doing it,
I love it when I run into people and they say, well, there's this new guy named Chris Stapleton.
Yeah,
and I'm like, the guy's been, probably a millionaire for the last 12 years.
Yeah,
people
don't
been
realize
in the
that
music business for 20 years.
He's been writing for everybody else for the last 12 years in Nashville. I mean,
Yeah,
he wrote Badonkadonk. He's written tunes for Adele
and George Strait and Kenny
Vince
Chesney
Gill.
and Darius Rucker. I mean, all those guys
tons.
have cut Chris Stapleton songs.
So
folks
he
don't
wasn't
realize
some
that.
poor kid that just happened to get a record deal in the last
lucky.
few years, and now everybody knows who he is.
Well, the music industry is a hard thing, and it is. And so many folks stay in an independent place. I know you've done that in a big way because you want to write what you want to write. You don't want to be dictated to. You want to release the music that you like. And a lot of times when you're being dictated to by a record label, that gets a little bit tricky.
Well, we have record labels here in our area in Texas, so that's not necessarily true, that statement. Mm-hmm. The Nashville labels.
And that's what I mean.
The Nashville labels, because we have record labels here, and they're doing great jobs for great artists, and they're all making money. They're selling records, man. People are buying them down here. But that statement relates to me, in my brain, to the Nashville labels.
Yeah.
Nashville labels, they don't want to hear some soft-spoken story about this or that. You know what I mean? They want to hear something about a tailgate and a half rap beat and
speakers going boom boom.
Speakers going boom boom and a body like a back road or whatever the hell that means. but that's what's selling for them right now. And I'm not putting that down. They're selling millions of records doing that.
Yeah.
And that's where they're at.
What do you really think about that though? I mean, the music coming out as far as your taste is concerned.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't. But I also grew up on Merle Haggard and George Strait and Keith Whitley and those guys told stories.
Yeah.
Those guys had writers like Dean Dillon and Whitey Schaefer and that told stories.
Let me tell you funny. I'm going to tell the
tugged
listeners.
on your heartstring. It either made you cry or it made you laugh or both.
Yeah.
And anymore, to me, the songs coming out of that town, they're selling to 13-year-old kids. But they're downloading them, man. I'm not
all the way to the bank.
I'm not putting them down. I'll high five them when I see them.
Sure.
They're selling a crap ton of records.
Yeah.
But that's what's selling, so that's what they're making.
Yeah. And if that's what you like and that's what you listen to, then listen to it.
Right.
But I don't have to like it.
No, you don't have to like it, and that's why there's multiple channels on radio stations.
That's exactly right. It's like my social media. I wish some people just would scroll past, but they can't do it.
I get it, and it's amazing to me that they don't.
I know.
If you dislike me as much as you say you do, then why in the hell are you listening to me right now? That's what I want to say. Like,
you mentioned Merle Haggard. And that will always stand out to me. We happened to be at the same concert one night. You sat in the row right across from us. You and our
Bass
buddy,
Hall, Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah, it was the last time. The first concert I ever went to was Merle Haggard,
right?
And then I went to that one, and that was the last Merle Haggard show. And then, of course, 2 years later, he died,
right?
And so it was you and our buddy Kyle Kerbel, who's a golf pro, and you guys were sitting over there, and both of you were dressed in all black. You guys had your black. It was a cold night. You had your black overcoat on. You had your jeans. You had the black cap on and all this stuff.
I was a hipster, man.
And the guys in front of you turned around and they started talking to you, and you were like, "Well, I'm a musician. I do music for a living." And they're like, "So are you a roadie?"
Yeah, because I had all black on. Yes, I'm a wedding photographer. I'm wearing all black right now.
They said, "Are you a roadie?"
That's so
I was
funny.
like, "Yeah, you're sitting there talking to a Texas legend here." Yeah, he's a roadie.
That was a great show, though. Marty Stewart
phenomenal.
Marty Stewart opened for Merle Haggard.
Very few musicians are as talented as Marty Stewart.
Very seldom do you find a musician that talented.
That's why when I say when people toss the term musician around, you got to be careful with that.
Right.
And you're a musician.
Thank you.
You're a guitarist. And you can play a lot of things.
I can play a lot of things, but I play guitar.
But you're a guitarist. I mean, you're a phenomenal musician.
And I did that on the road for many years, playing for other artists.
Yeah.
I mean, I started out being a guitar player.
Yeah. And you can play keys and a number of other things.
Yeah.
And you're used on a number of studio albums and things like that for folks. Our buddy Daryl Dodd, he came out with his new
played
thing
some
where
piano on a
you
couple
played
of those
piano on a
tracks.
couple of those songs.
Right.
And so you did all those things. When you hear that term tossed around like that, what ultimately does that mean to you?
Oh, it's a compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when you hear somebody else referring to other people as musicians, I mean, like, for instance, we did that show together the other week, and our buddy Aaron Copeland, who's a great musician, he made the comment, he said, "What's Chad going to do when he's on stage with us?" I'm not a musician. You know what I'm saying? I do enough to get by, and I can entertain, but no, I'm not a musician.
But no, you're a singer.
Yeah, well, I guess.
So, yeah. I mean,
that's loosely translated there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, you hear that tossed around a lot. But I mean, you got guys like that. So that show with Merle Haggard, and it was an interesting deal because I mean, he was getting up there in age. He even had a kind of an asthma attack while he was on stage doing that.
Yeah.
And they had to go get his inhaler. They had to stop and do all that.
Yeah.
So his son Ben Haggard, do you follow him very much?
I do.
He's a phenomenal voice.
And that dude's a musician too.
He's a musician.
He's a telly player. He played telly for his dad for years on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard several people say that he may even be better.
Oh yeah.
I mean, as far as it just all the way around, even his voice potentially may even be better than his dad.
Possibly.
I mean, that's an argument, but
yeah, possibly. But as far as guitar player, I think he's 100% better guitar player than what Merle was.
Yeah,
but that's why Merle always had a 12-piece band. He didn't have to be.
He didn't have to be all that great.
He was Merle.
He taught himself how to play, you know, post prison and all of that stuff. So let's talk about dads. Your dad, Leon Helms.
Right.
Was a musician.
He was.
So you got it honest.
No, Leon Helms was a singer.
Was a singer. Okay.
Yeah. Dad played the.
I like these qualifications we're going to use now.
Yeah, Dad. Yeah. Well, I mean, you threw it out there.
Yeah, you're right. I like it.
Dad wasn't. He was not a picker.
Yeah.
He was a singer.
Yeah.
Singer-songwriter.
And so you grew up. I mean, but you got it honest in terms of the musical influence.
Yeah, I grew up being around all those dudes.
That's what I mean.
Dad always had a huge band, so I was 6 years old and going out in and out of bars watching the guys play. Sitting with the aunts and uncles, and I'd go home and play what I saw them play.
At what point in time did you say that's what I want to do?
Very young.
Yeah.
Like 10 probably.
I had a friend of mine years ago. He said the best way to teach a kid how to play a guitar is tell him he can't touch it. Like just say put it in the other room and say I don't want you to touch that for a week.
But that's anything for a kid, though.
Yeah. They're going to go find a way to touch it.
I promise.
And they're going to play it. How young were you when you started playing?
I got a drum set when I was 12, and there was actually three of my buddies. We all got drum sets for Christmas. And we all met at one of their houses. Jeff Gilbert, who plays drums for me to this day.
Yeah.
And we were in the 6th grade, and Jeff Reagan. And we're all three from Cleveland, and we all three got drum sets. We all met at Jeff Reagan's house one Saturday afternoon. We're all playing. We're going to form a band, and about 30 minutes into it, we realized that we can't all be the freaking drummer, you know. So Jeff Reagan and I both got guitars the next year. So I think I was 13 when I got a guitar.
Yeah.
And so did Jeff Reagan. And Jeff Gilbert was the better out of the three of us, so he stayed with the drums, and that's how it all started for me.
How hard was it for you when you started? Did it come somewhat? You know, you talk about people being a natural.
It was natural.
Yeah.
I could sit in my room and turn the radio on and play back what I heard.
Because you've always told me, you're like, man, I could show you a couple of different things, and it's not a big deal.
Right.
I'm like, you're out of your mind.
But no, I know the guitar well enough that I can show you things that you'll go, oh, I get that. Okay,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
It's all theory, dude.
You've been telling me that for years. You still haven't shown me.
It starts here and ends here, and it's all the same notes in between. You
Yeah.
just got to know how to do it.
Hell of a friend you are.
I know.
You leave me on the golf course, and then you're doing all that stuff. Where do you think the shape and the scope and the future of music is going? Whether let's say country music,
Right.
well, I mean, where's it headed? Can this trend of where it's at? Because there's always the trends with every decade.
Yeah, there's always trends, and no matter what happens in the music industry and the country music, traditional always pops its head back up.
Yeah,
People are not going to completely get rid of that.
yeah,
You may have 5 or 6 skinny jean dudes running around on stage with a beat rap thing going behind you, but there'll always be a dude with a cowboy hat and a starched pair of Wranglers and a fiddle and a steel guitar behind him, and that's selling just as many records. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's never going to go away.
I
think eventually the traditional is going to pop back.
I was with a band the other night. They've currently got a song that's about to break into the top 20. Midland, the band Midland. They've got that song, "Drinking Problem."
Right.
You and I have listened to that song. We were on the road together one time. We were trying to figure out what that song sounds like.
It's a great record.
Yeah. It's a good one. But I mean, those guys, you look at them and you're like, who in the world are these guys?
Right.
They're so modern type looking country, but they got a great country sound. They do a phenomenal job.
Yeah. I think that
our buddy, who's the road manager for Eli Young, just walked up and dropped the Eli Young band. He just came and dropped drinks off here for us on the table.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, buddy. That's awesome,
it's
man.
not what you know, man. It's who you know.
It's who you know. I mean, I feel like the Eli Young band right here, just getting catered to. But I mean, that's another
taller,
band,
but much taller.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's another band that's done a good job of keeping a country music sound alive.
Another one that is stuck to their guns too, though.
Yeah.
What you're hearing right now out of them out of Nashville is the same thing that you heard 12 years ago in Texas.
When they came out of Texas.
Yeah, it's the same dudes playing the same music.
Yeah. You've got a new album coming out.
I do. It's out now.
It's out now.
Yes.
It's out. Is it pre? Is
it
it
is out now?
It's out now.
It's out for
and I know by the time this podcast, if you're listening to this podcast right now, this is pre-recorded, so it is definitely out now.
Right.
The name of the album is
Can I Buy You a Country Song?
Can I Buy You a Country Song? You'll see Steve's ugly mug standing there against a jukebox.
Yes.
And it's got some really good music on it. Now, the story there, I want you to go into this because this is an interesting story. I want you to name drop a little bit.
All right, I'll tell the whole story.
Come on in with this thing. This is a great story.
Years and years ago, my dad, Leon Helms, who's gone now, he's passed away 20 years, he had a record deal back in the 70s. And Benny MacArthur, who plays guitar for George Strait for the last 33 years, played guitar for my dad when Benny was about 18 years old. And I ran into Benny last year at Las Vegas for National Finals Rodeo. Had drinks with him for about an hour or two, and he said, "What are you doing? What are you doing now?" I hadn't seen Benny in forever, you know.
Yeah.
I said, "Well, Benny, I play music, you know." He goes, "Well, really?" I said, "Yeah, I'm on my 4th or 5th record already and 17th radio single." And he said, "Well, I'm producing." So I kind of looked at him and I said,
Which means I'm taking money.
Yeah, exactly. I said, "So what are you saying? We should do a record together and dedicate it to my dad?" And you could just see the wheels turning in both of us at that point, and that's what started it.
Yeah.
About, I don't know, 6-7 months later, we started to work on the project.
Yeah. And then you had some pretty good studio musicians in there with you.
Yeah, Benny produced it, and we did it in Austin at Bismo Studio, which is Ray Benson with Asleep at the Wheel. He owns that.
Mm-hmm.
And but Benny had 90% of the Ace in the Hole band play on the record.
Yeah. So you got George Strait's Ace in the Hole band.
Right.
Not too slouchy.
Yeah.
Right there.
Great pickers.
Yeah. But it's a great album. I've heard it. I've got it. I love it. And did you on that one? You put the one on there. The one that you and Aaron Copeland wrote together is on that one as well. Yeah, Should Be Me.
It should be
phenomenal
me.
Song.
Thanks.
And then you gave me the honor of being a part of the music video of your re-release of Nowhere But Texas.
Right.
That's an iconic song.
Thanks, man.
And I don't say that lightly.
And it's not so much a re-release. It's the 10-year anniversary of the song. It's been out 10 years.
Yeah.
So we re-recorded it.
And we didn't take it away and bring it back.
No.
It's still there.
It's still there. But it's 10-year anniversary, so we recut it acoustically and did a video on it to kind of celebrate it and had a bunch of my buddies come in and sing along.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be awesome.
That's a good video. You need to get online.
Can I drop more names on that?
Yeah, I want you to drop more names. I want you to right now list off everybody. If you forget anybody, then they're not going to be your friend anymore.
Oh, my God. Let me go slow. Jeff Bannister, Texas Rangers.
Manager of the Texas Rangers.
Yes. Troy Aikman.
Who used to play some football somewhere.
Oh, that's right. He did do that. I thought he was the Agby Brick guy. But
he does something on Sundays now, like talking. I don't know. Troy Aikman. I don't know. It'll come back to us.
I'll Google him more. Daryl Dodd.
Teen Beat Magazine.
Oh, yeah. The extra fold-out centerfold thing.
Yeah.
Sarah Hobbs. Mm-hmm. Bree Bagwell.
Mm-hmm. Two of my crushes.
Yes. Bo Phillips. Let me go slow.
Who, even though the song's Nowhere But Texas, he's from Oklahoma.
Yeah, whatever. He's a big dude. He hurt me.
I know.
Aaron
Funny
Copeland.
Guy. Yep.
Casey Donahue. Mm-hmm. Wade Bowen. Austin Alsop. Cody Canada. Justin Frizzell. You. Elena Davies.
Yep.
Matt Hillier.
Yeah.
Man, I'm thinking.
Yeah, you're doing pretty good. I think you got them. I'm running through it because we just watched the video a little while ago before we recorded this, and I think you got it. So go get the Nowhere But Texas. It's a fun one. It's a fun one, and I'm handsome in it.
You are.
So there's that.
Yeah.
And I'm looking old and tired, but I was watching that thing, and I looked at you, and I said, we're all getting old.
Yeah.
Bobby Duncan. You didn't mention Bobby Duncan.
Bobby Duncan.
I mean, we just had lunch with Bobby Duncan.
We did.
And so Bobby Duncan's in the thing, too. So check it out. But Nowhere But Texas, it's great.
Tommy Alverson.
Golly, man. And none of us got paid.
I know.
That's the beauty of it.
I'm a horrible friend.
God, you're terrible. And I bought your lunch. No, I tell you what's funny is I'm always reminded whenever you go to the ballpark in Arlington, Texas, and you go to a Texas Rangers game, which I do as much as I can throughout the summer. Into the game, you're walking out of the stadium, and I can hear my buddy, Steve Helms. There he is. Singing Nowhere But Texas.
Chuck Morgan with the Rangers, who is the announcer now batting.
Yeah,
he is in charge of all of the media and the scoreboards, all that stuff. And 9 years ago, somebody that works in Chuck's organization was driving home. He said it was 2 or 3 in the morning, and 95.9 The Ranch out of Fort Worth was playing Nowhere But Texas, and he heard it. And he took that song to Chuck the next day and said, "Man, you got to hear this."
Yeah.
And Chuck played it that night at the ballpark, and it's been at every home game for 9 seasons.
And now you get a royalty check every year of what, $17?
Oh yeah, at least. Yeah. It's cool though to see your BMI check and it has MLB.
Yeah, Major League Baseball. That's awesome.
That's a cool deal. You're right. It's like 75 cents a song or something.
People don't understand that.
Yeah.
They think that you sing a song, it gets on the radio, and it goes somewhere.
And you're rich and famous.
And you're rich and famous. Explain that process, because people don't get it. I've tried to tell them, and they don't understand.
Okay, let me explain the process. You're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get
That's it.
pennies on the dollar every time it's played.
See, these guys, they think that, okay, you take a guy like Kenny Chesney. Now, Kenny Chesney has a huge library of songs over the however many years. Some he's written, some he hasn't.
Right.
Many he hasn't. You take Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks written some he hasn't.
Right.
Some of his biggest hits are written by other people. I have people all the time, they say, you do those Garth Brooks parody songs like you'll do the Friends in Safe Spaces instead of Friends in Low Places.
Right.
They're like, what's Garth think about that? And I said, well, it doesn't matter. Garth didn't write it.
Right.
That's his song ultimately, but I'm being a little bit tongue in the proverbial cheek. But he didn't write the song.
No, yeah.
These guys, unless you're writing the song, you're really not making the money. And then you have however many co-writes. And the whole thing, if you write a word, you get a third. Right. You might have 6 guys that have contributed to this thing. The money's in songwriting, but ultimately the money's in touring.
Right.
You got to be out doing shows. You got to be selling merch. I have people all the time who say, "Man, you're gone too much. You're on the road too much." Well, you can't make money otherwise.
Right, and that's a whole different 45-minute segment too.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about CD sales and people not downloading CDs, and they're on Spotify streaming, and I get 1 million streams on a song, and I get $4.76 or some crap. So that's a whole different litigation there, buddy.
I love talking to musicians, and they'll show me a picture of their latest BMI check, and it's $4.71. And I said, boy, you can get you a Big Mac, almost get a Big Mac.
Oh,
yeah. So it's a hard business. Entertainment's a hard business. Any business, I always say that any business that involves critics,
right,
you're going to have, now everything gets reviewed.
Oh, yeah.
People
instantly.
And people are going to say, oh, this, that. But you did a phenomenal job on that deal, and I've been a big fan. And I'll tell you, Steve has a song, and you need to go get it. And I hate it, and I love it. It's a song called Apartment. And I'll tell you this about country music. I don't know if you guys, I know there are a lot of folks out there, they're like, well, I don't really listen to that much country music. Here's the genius of country music. I always jokingly say, and I did this with Neil McCoy, I said, it's all these things about blue-collar America, hardworking folks. You just add in a little cheating, drinking, and dying, and you got a country song.
Oh, yeah.
And it's typically, a little E chord, A chord, B7 progression, and you got the deal. But the beauty of country music is there's a nuance to it, like the double meaning. You take a word, and it could mean 2 different things or a phrase, and you put that in a song and you let people interpret it their way, and then they hear it and they're like, oh my gosh. So Steve has this song called Apartment, and everybody, when you hear the word apartment, you think of a place where you live. And he does this song about, tell the story of the song. It's about divorce.
It's the child's vision or the child's story of divorce.
And the dad lives in an apartment.
He moves off because he has to.
But the double meaning is, I found out, and this is the lyric, I find out what apart meant to me. That's genius.
Thanks, man.
It's genius.
Thank you.
And every time you sing it, I cry.
You do cry.
I cry.
I've seen you cry.
Because, those of you who don't know my personal story, I've been through a divorce. I've got kids. And so we've got the peanut gallery back here behind us. They cry too.
He's crying right now. And
I'm going to start crying. Thank you, Steve.
But yeah, if you haven't heard the song, go do it.
Get Apartment.
And again, what we talked about earlier, that was one of those too that I wrote that at Sony Publishing, one of the really nice writing rooms there on site. And when we wrote it, I wrote it with Bree Bagwell. She had a publishing deal with Sony at the time. When we wrote it, we were both crying every time we'd play a verse back to each other or something. Oh my God, tears would flow. I mean, we thought it was great. We thought we'd written the song.
It's one of those deals where,
and they didn't want it.
It's crazy.
It's too sad.
I hear that song, and I listen to, Steve's on my playlist when I'm on the road, and all the time I'm always listening to Steve, which reminds me, I'm going to tell a funny story. We're going to talk about Montana here in a minute. The funny thing about that deal is it doesn't matter how many times in a row I listen to it, and I'm still like,
You know it's coming, dude.
I know, but it's so very true to what I lived out with my own kids.
There's a lot of people that have gone through divorce.
Yeah, and it's a hard thing, and it's a hard thing because I'm going to stop talking about it.
Yes,
but anyway,
you're going to cry.
I know I will.
But the hook on the song is that in apartment 403, I found what apart meant to me.
But what apart meant
Because
to me?
Dad had to move out.
Yeah, I know. Dadgummit. That's why we drink. Cheers, my
Cheers,
friend.
man.
What are you drinking over there?
I'm drinking scotch right now.
What am I drinking? I'm drinking whiskey. All right. Isn't that right I'm drinking? Don't roofie me. I'm a sure thing. I had to ask Chief over there.
Don't screw up a good thing.
No, Steve and I had a show back last July in Bozeman, Montana. And I called Steve up,
State Fair.
and I didn't really know what I was going to be doing at that show. I didn't know if it was going to be music or comedy or what it was going to be. So I called Steve on the phone, and I said, Steve, I want you to go with me to Bozeman, either open for me or get on stage with me. We'll play together, whatever. But I just want you to go. Let's just hang out. I'll pay you to go.
Yeah.
And you said, I don't have anything going that weekend, so let's go. And then I think you made a few jokes. You said, this is the easiest gig I ever booked. Time comes around, and we're thinking, all right, first of all, we're going to go to Montana. We're going to go. It's going to be cooler weather because it's July in Texas, which means it's 207 degrees.
Right.
We get to Montana where they don't have air conditioning because they don't ever need it. It's 95
and they
degrees.
Don't have ceiling fans.
There's no ceiling fans. And so we're staying at my buddy, Dr. Chris Ray. He's a veterinarian, large animal vet up there in Bozeman. He works for a ranch up there. The folks that started Qualcomm, they have this ranch up there, and we stayed in the guest quarters, the bunkhouse.
They can afford an air conditioner.
They can afford it. I mean, this is like a $12 million guest house.
Bunkhouse.
Yeah, bunkhouse.
Yeah.
I've stayed in bunkhouses, and then I've stayed there.
Yeah.
And so we're up there at this place, and there's no ceiling fan. It's 95 degrees. It's just hot. And so we get up there. First of all, getting up there was a challenge because I have flown all over the world for many, many years.
Yeah.
You and I hit pockets of turbulence coming into Montana that is some of the worst flying.
I've never had my drink. I've never had the liquid part of my drink come out of my glass and back in, and I'm not making that up. That happened.
It happened.
It came out of the glass at least 6 inches.
It lifted out. The glass was dry. All the liquid was in there, and it just hit right back down in there. And at that moment, Steve and I looked at each other, and just without even thinking anything, we just stared at each other's eyes, and we both said, I love you. Because
this is it, man. I just want you to know I love you.
I mean, I'll hold your hand if we start going down. Not yet, but I will.
Louisa the crap out of that.
I was like, this is it. This is how I go. And I'm going with Steve Helms. And I always, you hear about these stories of, some famous musician that died in a plane crash or whatever. And I'm like, that's why I don't ever want to fly with musicians. And I'm like, I got to go out with Steve Helms. I mean, one time I was on a plane with David Lee Roth. I was like, okay, this will be cool. Yeah. This will be cool. No, I'm going out with Steve Helms.
The Big Bopper had like Richie Valens. You had me.
Yeah, Richie Valens and Buddy Holly, whoever that guy was. So anyway, we get there and we go in and we're just sweating. I mean, Steve and I are staying in the same little two-bedroom bunkhouse there. It's a huge wing of this place, and we're down to our skivvies, right? We're just walking around the whole time. And
it was so hot.
And so my buddy Chris Ray.
I mean, the temperature was so hot. Not us and our skivvies. Yeah, let me correct that.
Sure. We get down to things happen. We don't want to talk about it. It's Montana. It got broke back easy. There was no snuggle, and it was too hot to snuggle. So my buddy Chris Ray, that's the doctor there at the ranch. He is he has the ability to consume more tequila than any human I've ever seen on the planet.
He really does, and wants you to be a part of it.
It wants you to help.
Yeah.
He wants you to do as much as he's doing. I've seen the guy put away like 26 shots of Patron tequila in a night.
And it has to be Don Julio. He drinks Don Julio.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, I mean, the guy's just nuts with tequila. So he's got this steakhouse restaurant he likes to go to. He asks us to come over there and meet him for dinner. And he's the kind of guy that when you sit down with him, he wants to tell everybody, he wants to buy shots for everybody around. Everybody needs to be drinking tequila in the restaurant as far as he's concerned. Right. And so he's buying it for the bartender if they can drink it. And so he told him how to make this tequila martini, which in my opinion I'm thinking, no, this is not, that's not going to,
at all.
No, but it was good.
And it was great.
It was really good.
I had several.
We had a couple of them. So we have these tequila martinis. We have a steak dinner, and we're sitting there. We're talking, and one thing leads to another. And Chris wants to show us around town, and so we do a little bar hopping.
Right.
And we're thinking we're going to be good. We're going to get some sleep tonight, whatever. We go back to the bunkhouse late that night, sitting around, and beautiful night, cooled off, and you could open up your sliding glass door in the bedroom and let a breeze come through if you left the screen door closed.
Right.
You didn't want to open yours.
Well, can I say why?
Yeah, I want you to say why.
Chris said, dude, you can open the door and just let the breeze come through. It'll cool off instantly. Sleep like that. And I said, but what? I said, the bears, right? He goes, well, I mean, yeah, we have bears up here, but it's not so much those guys that you have to worry about. It's the Panthers. And I go, what?
I missed that part of the conversation, actually.
No, they have big panthers up here.
Oh, God.
So you're telling me that I could wake up and my head's in the grasp of panther jaws and I'm climbing up the mountain?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, it's happened.
Dragging you through the tall grass, through like
said, so,
Ghost in the darkness.
Open the door up if you get too hot. I said, no, dude, I'm going to sweat and bitch about it.
Well, I laughed about the bear thing. I wasn't aware of the Panthers. Just now I'm learning about the Panthers, but I laughed about that.
He said, you really don't have to worry about the bears. It's the Panthers.
Because I left the door open all night long. I slept with the door open.
So you're a Panther fan then.
But Steve almost died another way that night.
Oh my God.
This is a funny story.
You're going to tell it, aren't you?
I'm going to tell a little bit of it, and then I want you to finish it. So I get up the next morning, and Steve...
We swore that we would never talk about it.
No, we're going to talk about it. I've told everybody. It's no secret. Let me tell you something. I said, Steve comes to me, and he says, did I wake you up last night? And I said, what do you mean? And he says, about 3 a.m, did I wake you up? He goes, I was in my room, and I was screaming. And I said, what do you mean you were screaming? What happened? And what happened, Steve? Tell the story.
We'd had a lot of tequila, dude.
Yeah.
I woke up because I thought I'd heard something. And I wake up to a red dot, what looked like was 2 foot away from my head. And a
red light laser dot.
That's the first thing I thought was that it was a laser on a pistol. Because I'm from Texas. We have those.
Yeah.
We go hog hunting. We have lasers on our guns. So I wake up to this light that looks like it's 2 foot from me. And it scared the crap out of me, dude. I hollered, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing in here? And I'm reaching for the light switch, and I hit the lamp, knock the lamp over, and I'm still hollering. And this dude is not turning this laser off of me. It's still there. And I'm not kidding. It scared me. So I finally get to the light. Actually, I reached and I found my phone.
Yeah.
And I hit my phone and kind of put it towards there. And about 12 foot across the room is where the smoke detector.
The smoke detector on the ceiling.
And it's crazy how that smoke detector has the same light as that laser that was pointed at me just a few seconds earlier.
Steve's in there, he hits his head on the headboard, knocking over lamps. He's scared to death. He's having a primal moment.
I can't reenact how I acted in that 30 seconds, but it was awful. I know what I'm going to be like now in the major catastrophe.
I have laughed about that and
I'm
laughed.
Be a 12-year-old girl.
I know. In a moment of crisis, you do not want music legend, singer-songwriter Steve Helms on your side. Don't pick him. That's the funniest story, man. I have laughed so hard. And knowing you the way I do, it's just funny.
It scared me.
It was a weird trip, though, because then we started feeling bad. You started feeling bad the next day. I was okay for the most part. And then I was like, we were like trying to figure out, why are you getting sick? Did you eat something? And we realized we're at 5,000 feet elevation.
Right.
And it was getting you.
You
had a rough
at 95
time.
degrees.
95 degrees.
Yeah.
But we went out. We did the, what was that called? It was the Big Sky Country Fair, one of their state fairs they do in Bozeman. Had a huge crowd, huge turnout. And then Ned Ledoux, Chris Ledoux's son, did a show. That's uncanny how much like he's so much like his dad.
Oh, yeah, tons.
Crazy. And then, Chief, you guys were there, and I'm yelling back across the room, and Chief, y'all were there the next night.
The Eli Young Band.
Eli Young Band was there the next night. I wish I'd have been opening for you guys. Anyway, next year. But that was a fun trip, man. We had a trip. And we should do that some more.
I'm keep telling you, take me with you.
Yeah. Whatever pays the bills, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to figure that one out. But I'm almost scared to travel with you anymore.
No, you can't be scared, man.
No, you're a pretty even hand. So you're taking off. You're going to Las Vegas tomorrow. You got the
it's National Falls Rodeo time again.
Yeah, it seems like every time we turn around, it's December and we're back out in Vegas.
I know.
Yeah, I'll be out there Saturday.
I'm excited.
Last year we were in Las Vegas, and Steve and I and his former fiddle player, Ben, we jumped on a craps table there at Mandalay Bay.
Yes, we did.
And we were killing it, man. We were absolutely killing it.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, this is going to be a bad memory. And we were killing it, and we were just getting stupid, putting bigger bets out there, and then all of a sudden I rolled that strategic 7 when I shouldn't have, and we lost it all.
Yeah, I
Game over.
About that.
Yeah.
You owe me about $700.
$700-800 on that deal.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad memories between us. You didn't even.
There really is.
You didn't even realize. Then Steve and I. This is our relationship, and I'll hush being so sentimental here. It was funny. Steve and I try to go to lunch, every so often, at least once a month, every couple of weeks. He asks a lot more than I say yes to, but we had not seen each other in like a month, and then we ran into each other at a benefit, and it was like Bo Derek and Dudley Moore in the movie 10 running across the beach.
Please tell me I was Bo Derek. I don't want to be that short.
Well, we'll see. We embraced one another. That's a funny deal. What's coming up for you? What do you got? I know you got the album release. Right. I know you're a busy guy. You got stuff going on.
The CD actually goes live. I mean, like full-blown live, January the 26th.
Okay.
January the 27th, we're having a CD release party here in Fort Worth.
I'll be there.
At Silver Star Whiskey, which is Trinity River Distillery here in Fort Worth. They make Silver Star Whiskey and Silver Star Vodka, and they're one of our sponsors, and that's where I'm going to do the release party at.
Yeah.
7:00.
Well, that's going to be a fun deal in Fort Worth, and so if you're in the area, come by, hang out, and be sure to pick up a copy, a digital copy, but buy it.
Yeah,
don't just download it, buy it. This is how guys get up and down the road, and I mean, I promise you, they're still making pennies on the dollar off of these downloads, so I always encourage people.
Man.
It helps.
I promise it helps.
It helps. I mean, people love music, but it's amazing to me how much the world loves music, but they want to find ways to not pay for the music they love.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
It really is. Invest in the things you love.
And I get it. A lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah.
And I actually had a person one time, had a CD release party, and I actually had a lady, her friend bought a CD, and she was standing next to her, and I said, "Do you want one too?" And she said, "No, I'll just copy hers." And she said that to me at my CD release party.
Yeah.
And she didn't realize that is illegal.
Yeah.
She had no clue.
Yeah.
Me being the smart ass, I had a million things I wanted to come back at her and say, but I was like, well, you realize that's not cool. That's actually illegal. That's pirating.
Yeah.
She goes, what are you talking about? People don't understand that. They have no clue.
Doesn't make sense to them.
Yeah. And when Napster came out and you could get everything for free, they had no clue that that's illegal.
Yeah. Well, you definitely can't make a living that way. Yeah. And I don't know that people understand, too, how much time and energy and really stress goes into writing a song and creating a song, finding the lyric, finding the tune, the melody, putting it together, and then not only just recording, but just the cost of production that goes into that.
Promoting it afterwards, everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, I think people think that it's like an American Idol type, and no disrespect to people who have done. I got a lot of friends, and you do too, who have done the music shows, have done the music contestants shows, and all that competition shows. Right. No disrespect to it, is what it is. But I think people have this idea that the music industry is like American Idol. Somebody says yes to you, and you're just off to the races.
All of a sudden, you're a star, and you're making millions.
Yeah, you're rich, you're famous, the money rolls in, your private jets, and the whole thing. I know that, my mother, she called me the other day, and she said, everybody back home, Augusta, Georgia, she said, they all think you're just rolling in money. And she goes, I'm not letting them believe any different. And I'm like, well, Mom, don't push it, because I might need a loan at some point in time.
You don't want every cousin called us.
No, take it easy there, Mom. But it's hard. It's hard to make it in this business of show. It is, whether it's music, comedy, television, movies. I asked my agent a while back, I said, why don't you give me some movie parts out there? And he goes, why do you want to do that? He said, you want to make $600 a day? What's the point in,
Right.
And
you can make $600
Apparently you can. Apparently you can.
Hell yeah.
I know. Once upon a time, I'd have been like, let's go do that. I'm in.
I remember hearing a story one time. No, it was actually Alan Jackson. Yeah. Somebody had interviewed him and asked him kind of the same questions about the money and all that and success. And he had 3 number 1 hits out before he ever turned a profit.
Yeah.
he got all of the record label paid back and got everything paid before he ever made a profit. He had 3 #1 hits out. And I'm talking like Billboard hits. I'm not talking Texas regional radio chart. I'm talking worldwide.
Yeah.
He had 3 #1s before he ever turned a profit.
Yeah.
And that's just amazing to me.
Well, I think Neil McCoy made the comment. I'd have to go back and listen to the podcast, but he said to me that by the time he hit it and some songs were making it, he said he was $2 million in the hole.
Sure.
$2 million in the hole with everything that was going on.
Right.
And he said, it's that type of stuff you will just never realize again. It's not coming back.
Right.
It's not coming back.
Yeah.
Well, I'm proud of you, man.
Thanks,
I'm proud of the friendship you and I have developed. I know you didn't like me at first. And that's okay. It's okay. I won you over. I won your heart.
Well, I mean, I dislike you less. It's gotten better.
Alcohol has helped our relationship tremendously, that and being in precarious situations over the years. Let's talk real quick about that before we get out of here. I want to talk to you about, we got our good buddy, Cowboy Bill Martin, William Martin. We have both worked together with his organization called Cowboys Who Care.
Right.
You're still on the board of that. Up until recently, I was as well. I just wasn't able to devote the time to it like I had before, and still involved with it, though, and love the organization. Talk about that organization a little bit, because that's been another thing that's kind of helped us bond over the years.
Cowboy Bill called me one day, and he said, man, I've got this idea. And he started this organization of putting cowboy hats on kids with cancer and other terminal illnesses. Sorry, it's hard to get that out. And he started going to hospitals in different towns that he played at and delivering cowboy hats to these kids. These kids would have chemotherapy and lose their hair.
Yeah.
Well, instead of putting a wig on their head, he would put a cowboy hat on them.
Yeah.
And he got Resistol involved, and they've been a huge sponsor and donated hat after hat after hat. And, man, he's been all over the world doing it, And
Right.
I've delivered, I don't know, probably maybe 10 times with him total, some in Vegas, a couple times in Vegas and Dallas, Fort Worth area. And, man, he's up over 8,000 hats delivered to these kids. Yeah, it's amazing.
Huge.
Yeah.
I always, I tell people, they say, how are you able to do that? And I say, Bill's got these rules that I love. He says, first of all, you don't assume gender. Because you're dealing with a child that's bald-headed. You don't know if it's a boy or a girl, so you can't say, how you doing, man?
Yeah.
It might be a little girl.
Yeah.
You never ask them how they're doing, because obviously they're not doing good.
Right.
They're doing the best they can. They're strong. They're resilient. And the hardest one is don't cry.
Yeah.
You can't go in there and deliver those cowboy hats to those kids and cry. So I've excused myself numerous times to other empty rooms.
Yeah, you have to.
Because it's hard.
It's tough.
But what a great organization Bill does, and check them out at cowboyswhocare.org and get involved any way you can with them. But that's a phenomenal thing. And
in fact, I got an email a few days ago that he's put the dates out there for National Falls Rodeo to deliver hats out there.
Yeah.
And I think they're doing it on like the 13th or the 14th, and I leave on the 11th.
You'll already be gone.
Yeah, I'm already going to be gone, so I'm going to miss that one.
Well, it's a phenomenal organization. Steve, you're a phenomenal musician. You're a phenomenal human being. I don't care what your wife says about you.
Yeah, she's crazy.
Follow Steve on Facebook. Go find Steve Helms, Helms, and
Twitter and all the other stuff is Steve Helms Band.
Steve Helms Band.
In fact,
and Instagram
you can find
well.
that on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
Steve Helms Band. That keeps you up to loop on everything.
Get on there,
Instagram,
like,
Twitter, all of it.
Follow, get the CDs, go find it on iTunes and all the special places where you can buy records and buy albums and get it. You'll like it. And download songs like Apartment and Nowhere But Texas and Riding My Thumb to Mexico, which I didn't realize. I never knew that was a remake when you did that song.
Yeah, Johnny Rodriguez.
Yeah. And then when I heard it, I was like, wow, because I thought that's the weirdest name of a song ever, because that sounds kind of dirty. I'm riding my thumb to Mexico, but I know what it means.
It's hitchhiking.
It's hitchhiking, I know, but I have a weird, perverse mind.
But it also came out for Johnny in the late 70s.
Yeah.
So that was a thing back then. People hitchhiked.
People used to hitchhike and no fear of murder.
Told this girl to kiss off, and he's going to ride his thumb all the way to Mexico and find the beach.
Yeah. So, you've done a couple of covers you've released. James Taylor.
Yeah, we never sent that out to radio, but
I love that song. I love your version
Thanks,
of it.
man. Yeah. I had so many promoters tell me don't send that out to radio. Do not send that out to radio.
Yeah.
And I kick myself to this day for not doing it.
I think it's
a great version.
It's a great version of it.
I loved it.
Yeah, and but there's a number of You can't get any more redneck than a song that's Red Wine in Copenhagen.
Yeah, that's a title track of one of them there.
Catchy.
Yeah.
I love it. And then, of course, Chasing Amy.
Yeah. And
Huge hit for you.
That's a remake. I didn't write that one.
Yeah. Huge, but you made it your own.
Yeah, I did. Brett James out of Nashville had a hit in the 90s, and that was on his CD. It was never released to radio, but back in the 90s when we were playing that top 40 hit that he had, which I can't tell you what it is now. It's been so long.
Right.
But I remember finding that song we found that song on the CD. And Lanny Martindale, who plays piano and occasionally bass for me, sang it back in the 90s. And Ronnie played guitar. And that song's been a part of all of our lives since the 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like our tune.
It's your song.
Yeah.
At this point, it's your song. Trust me. I've quoted Mark Twain so much that now it's not even his quote anymore. It's just mine. Yeah. Who's Mark Twain?
Yeah.
Anyway, go find him. Go find the records. Go find the songs. Download them. Pay for them. Be sure to pay for them. And follow Steve on all the social medias and find him live. Actually, if you want to be fully entertained, because back to the very start of our conversation, I've always referred to guys like you and some of our other friends as human jukeboxes. Because you guys did. Y'all started on Thursday night. You ran all the way through the weekend. And Wednesday night, we ran all the way through the weekend. Right. And y'all played 4 or 5 hour sets.
Oh, yeah. That's how we made a living.
That's how you did it. And you didn't repeat songs.
Clubs back in those days didn't care that you wrote a song.
Right.
We don't want to hear that.
Right.
We want to dance to Boot Scoot and Boogie and all the other stuff that was on the radio.
Yeah.
So you played Wednesday through Saturday night, 9 to 2.
Yeah.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And, and you hoped that when you got to because we played Denver, Las Vegas, Orlando, Nashville. We played all over.
Yeah.
And I always loved when we'd go to Denver because we'd play the Grizzly Rose. We played every 6 weeks. And every Friday and Saturday there would be a Nashville act there. So we'd show up and we'd do a 45-minute set and we were done for the night.
Yeah.
So we could get hammered on Friday and Saturday and still make the same money. So we thought we were big time then. Wednesday and Thursday we're playing these marathons, but Friday and Saturday there was a big act,
Making it happen. Well, you guys go find Steve, my buddy Steve Helms. Check him out live if you ever get an opportunity to. You'll be thoroughly entertained. You guys find me at watchchad.com. Of course, you can find me at politicalcowboy.com. Thanks for tuning in to the Chad Prather Show. I want you to tell all your friends, wherever you get an opportunity, leave and rate a really good review on the show. I would greatly appreciate that, and we certainly appreciate you for subscribing and listening.
I want you to follow me on Twitter at WatchChad. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/WatchChad. You can subscribe to Chad Prather on YouTube, and you can find me on Instagram at WatchChad.
Steve, I thank you for being on here.
Thanks, man. Thanks for all you do for me. You're always promoting and tweeting and talking.
I'm trying. I love you. I think we nailed it, man. For everybody with the family at Podcast One, this is the Chad Prather Show. I'm Chad Prather. I'll talk to you next week. Love y'all. God bless.
Thanks for listening to The Chad Prather Show. Check out new episodes every Thursday exclusively at PodcastOne.com, the new Podcast One app, or subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Podcast One has new shows on our new app. Check out all the cool features to help you explore our exciting new programming, like America's Lakers podcast with Jay Moore, Sessions with Randy Jackson, So Random with Corinne Olympios, Attack Each Day, the Harbaugh's podcast, Not Just Sports with